I don't know is a very good answer, I should say, in many cases. If you don't know, people will honestly tell you and help you rather than pretending to know. That's something that I never try to do. I don't pretend to know. If I don't know, I don't know.
So hi guys, we just got over a little bit of technical glitch and here we are. This is our first segment of a section that we call That Job Rocks. This is a very important segment, especially for parents and educators, because the one thing that we always worry about is what is our child going to do in the future? What about their careers? And in today's world, there's so many options, there's so many things that they can do that it can really get overwhelming for parents after some time. So what we have done with That Job Rocks is we have brought together a couple of experts from various industries, educators from different backgrounds, okay, who will be telling us exactly what you need to do to prepare your child, keeping the current job market in mind. Besides that, we're also going to be talking to a lot of people who have gained a lot of success in alternate careers. It could be somebody who is a musician, or a dancer, or an artist, or something that we don't really think of as a traditional career option. And we give you tips on how you can help your child when they're ready and they want to pursue something like this, something different, or even a traditional job opportunity, or something absolutely new that you've never heard of. That is what That Job Rocks is all about. And today what we're going to do is we're going to speak to Dr. Ravi Garur. Okay, he is the Professor and Chair of the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department at the University of Alabama. Now, we have woken him up early in the morning and said, please come and talk to us. And we troubled him to get through all of this and said, no, you've got to come live with us. And he is here. So thank you so much for joining us. And welcome to us.
Pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you all. Thank you for having me, and good morning to the viewers. It's not that early. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, which is my normal work time.
Right.
Yeah.
So today you're taking some time off for us. Is that right?
Yes, I'm taking some time off. This is a very, I think it's a wonderful event that Bala and Nupur are doing. It's definitely something that is going to help people to hear from different points of view. That's important, is that you're hearing different points of view, and keep that in mind that each one will add their own bias to whatever they're saying.
Yes. So now why we're talking to Dr. Ravi is that he's from Bangalore, and then he's traveled all over the world and taught students, seen things change from both the corporate perspective and from a student's perspective. So we thought that in our first segment, he'd be the best person to give us both sides of the story. Okay? To begin with, Dr. Ravi, why do you think that this conversation that we're having is important?
Well, anything that's going to help prepare the kids for prepare better for the future is important, both for the kids and for the parents. And it's also important to get kind of clear or get rid of a few misconceptions with kind of background and how they are useful and not useful in the job market and so on. And also, because I'm from Bangalore and go there every year, I talk to a lot of people there. And since my time as a student till now, certain things have changed. Certain things have not changed. So, since I'm on the other side of the globe here, I think that I can give you a slightly different perspective, a different viewpoint, and you can keep that in your at the back of your mind when you're making decisions.
Right.
So, bottom line is that anything that helps our kids get on the right track is important.
So that is just what Hoopsters is all about. That's why we're doing this, because we see nowadays that parents actually get a little freaked out by the time kids are in their 12th standard or 10th standard. They're really afraid. They don't know. And suddenly one day a child comes and says, I want to become this or that. It can be scary. But today the scenario is very different and we have more choices. So, given that, what I want to ask you is, since you have taught children from different backgrounds, different parts of the world, what do you think are some similarities and differences in terms of the opportunity that they have when you compare children in India and children from other parts, or is there any difference at all?
Well, let me break that up into several parts of their education process. As far as primary schooling, when I say primary schooling, I take that up from K through 12, as it's called here. So there it would be from your kindergarten or first standard to the second PUC. Until that stage, there is really not much difference at all. I mean, the goal is very simple. You've got to learn your foundation materials, be it math or science or English, or languages, and so on. So that part is, I would say, very, very similar everywhere. And the primary curriculum hasn't changed that much. Of course, there's a little more of an emphasis on computer usage, which was not there during our times. But as far as the textbook materials go, nothing much has changed, whether it be it science or math or what are the subject, history, geography, and so on. At once you reach like in India in the second PU stage, that's considered as a critical year. Okay, but it's all similarity here is that yes, high school is what is grade 12 here. And after that, people make a decision whether to go to what kind of college or what kind of major they want to pursue. Yes, there are more opportunities here. The competition is a lot tighter in India. But I'm so happy to see that today in India, there are so many opportunities, Gone are the days where you had to be a medical doctor or an engineer. Okay, if you weren't one of the two, then you were considered a dropout in life. That is not true anymore. It was never true before, also, but the perception was there very strong. But today, I'm happy to see that there's so many opportunities there. People who are in other supporting things like computer informations or anything related to computers, it can always be tied back to many jobs. So what I would stress is that yes, your computer is there with us to stay. The sooner our children get used to it, not just for playing video games, but for using it for other things, I think it would be very helpful.
Right. So now what you told us was that the primary education or the high school education has not really changed much in India, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Well, it's when the mind is still young and fresh, it's time to. That's the time is correct to build the foundation. The foundation is the same everywhere. Okay. No matter what kind of building you're building on top, the foundation has to be strong, and it doesn't change much. Okay, so the method of teachings, yes, that could be different. I mean, I see differences in the way we were taught in school versus the way my children were taught. That's the next generation, but there were more similarities and differences. Okay. There is a little more emphasis on rote learning in India. I just memorize, and then answer the exams. Whereas in I think talk about the American and North American system of education, which is probably true in Europe and other places as well. The emphasis is on kind of creativity, I would say. Okay, people are, you can answer the question in several ways. And I see a lot of variation in the way people answer the same question. And so the teachers are, I would say, more receptive to multiple ways of answering rather than just one, solid way that we were told that this is the answer for that question. There are multiple
Right.
ways in which you can do. So that is a different, and that's not too difficult to change, So I'm, despite what people comment on the education system, I think the Indian system is very good. Okay, I mean, I see a lot more strength than weaknesses, and whatever few things that is lacking can be easily adapt. Children can adapt to that.
So, what are the strengths of our Indian education system? If we're talking about strength, what is the best thing about it?
I think the discipline, in terms of the school routine, okay, the homeworks, okay, that and
Mm-hmm.
I think of
Homework,
school.
okay.
I think of which was one of the wonderful schools I always thought, and I still think that's one of the best schools that you could attend. It's just the discipline to, okay, homeworks are given, and homeworks have you have to finish them by a certain time, and you're going to be tested on that. So the biggest strength I see is how the Indian system prepares you for taking tests and exams. I mean, that is
Right.
it. Believe me, I mean, anybody who comes from India typically has no problem succeeding in any kind of a test or exam taken anywhere in the world. Okay, because we are prepared for that. Okay, that's drilled into our DNA, I should say. Okay, so that is the biggest strength, is that it prepares you for tests and exams of various kinds. Okay, a slight weakness I would say is that it's very rigid. It's very rigid. There could be more flexibility. A question can be answered in multiple ways, and some ways are, they can bring different points of view there. So and that, if we can recognize that, probably they're doing it now. I'm not so much in tune with everything
Right.
that's happening in India right now, because I've been away for quite a while. But I do see students. We take students into our undergraduate programs, into our graduate programs, that is for masters and PhD. Most of our students for graduate programs are international, and our students do very well. I mean, I can very confidently say that I can pick up students from many colleges in Bangalore and in India, and I can assure you that they would do very well.
The fact is, yes, there is some change in the way we study compared to how I studied. Or, if I look at the way I studied, it was very project oriented. We had to go and do a lot of field work and all of that. So definitely, yes, that shift is there. But still, what we notice, this is a complaint amongst most people who have their own business, entrepreneurs, who say that it is very difficult to find new talent or to hire new employees. There is a lot of the issues like loyalty issues. There's issues that they're not able to follow instructions. They're not able to maintain that sense of discipline that we talked about. Why do you think we're heading in that direction? We feel that a lot of the youth today is a little difficult to employ and retain. Why do you think this is happening?
Okay, there is some simple observations that people have made, and I also have done that, is that very rarely do people get to practice what they learned in their education, in the sense that if you are you have a science background and you've taken your advanced degrees in science, you may not use all of that in your job. You may use very little of it. I mean,
Right.
people have to recognize the value of education is to impart the habit of critical thinking. You got to be able to think critically, analytically, no matter what the problem is. Okay. If you think that I did my BSc and MSc and all those things there, and I'm going to be doing all the stuff that I studied, no, you'd be wrong. Okay, but the way in which you learned your science subjects and the way you learn how to solve a problem, there's a lot of similarity in that, because a rational approach. Okay, you got to first of all find out what has been done on the job or in that area before, so that you don't reinvent the wheel. And you
Hmm.
start thinking, okay, how can I make or how can I adapt so that I could be better?
Right.
Okay, so that thinking is there, and it for that matter, it doesn't matter whether you have a science or a commerce or arts background or whatever it is. Is a
Hmm.
critical thinking that's what employers want.
Right.
Okay, if students are expecting that, oh, I am a bachelor, BS or MS in electronics or whatever it is, and I'm going to be doing only electronics all my life, that's totally wrong. Okay,
Okay.
that doesn't happen. You're hired because the employers believe that you have the ability to analyze a situation in a scientific and a well, what shall I say, quantitative way, and
Hmm.
apply your knowledge and what you learned and what you see how others are doing to the job.
Right.
So that adaptability should be there on the students' part. I mean, they can't say that, okay, I got a degree in this, and so I want a job in this. No, you want a good job.
Right.
Okay, you want a
So,
job that can, if you can use their background, educational background, good. But if not, definitely it can use the way you learn how to solve the problem. Okay, and the other truth is that people keep changing jobs very
mhm.
regularly. Okay, in India, that's become very common now because the people hardly stay in the job for more than a year or two because they're hired. They're hired because they're moving up in their career. Okay, and there are so many opportunities. So, but all that tells you is that as long as you're willing to learn and adapt,
Mhm.
that's the most important skill.
Okay.
It's not
So,
your job, your grades, and your academics help you get your first job. That's it. From there on, how well you did in the first job matters for your next job. Nobody asks you what's your background, what's your GPA, what's your thing, and so on after your first job. Okay, it is how well you did the last job.
mhm. So let me ask you one question. When you started off with your career, tell us how your experiences were. I mean,
Well,
see, the mentality that we have today, like you said, is this job is not suitable for my degree, or this is below my qualification or something like that. But from what I've learned watching maybe my father or you know his friends, everything is that they don't mind starting at the bottom and working their way up. So was it like that for you as well?
well, in a way, yes. I mean, every time you change your job or you go to a different institution, you have to prove yourself. And
Right.
in a way, you are, yes, you are. It's a learning process. I mean, you can take that as a challenge and say, okay, I got to show my new employers that I'm good. Okay, and I can surpass their expectations. And that happens if you work hard and are diligent in your job. Uh, it is, yes, and especially in my case, I came from India to Canada for my PhD there, and the first few months was basically that. Is that I was trying to things look a little bit different, the kind of gadgets that I was used to and the kind of gadgets I had here at my disposal. Yes, there is a learning process, but
Mhm.
as far as the basics of the subject are concerned, no, it was the same thing. It was the same thing there, and for me, like I said, because we had taken so many tests and exams in our thing, it was a breeze to get through the academic part of it. But the practical
Right.
part of it, yes, and our education in India is more book oriented,
Hmm.
whereas here it is more practice oriented. And I had to adapt a little bit. I mean, I had not even held a screwdriver properly. I should say a little bit exaggeration, but I was not a very hands-on person, and yes, I had to learn that a little bit, and but nothing that I could not adapt or learn quickly. So it was not a big, hurdle for me.
So what do you think made you adaptable? Because adaptability is very, very important,
Oh,
especially considering.
it's a personal mindset. It's a mindset. Okay, you have to say that. Look, the most important thing the boss cares for is the job done and done correctly. That's it. How you do it is entirely up to your imagination,
Right.
and the you have to learn to okay, think in to solve the problem. Okay, the first time you might take a lot more time and spend a lot more effort, but the first job will help you eliminate a few things that mistakes or whatever, and that adaptability is a personal mindset. You have to get over the thing that, oh, I am from what shall I say, top-notch institution here, and I have to be given only the best jobs. Nobody gives you a good job unless you show that you can do it. Okay, and
Right.
they really don't care where you came from and what your education qualifications are. Uh,
Yeah.
so it's a
So
mindset. It is something that's personal. Students or children should get used to it, saying that, okay, look, solve the problem. That's it.
so do you think that our generation is as good as adapting as yours?
Oh
You
yeah, even
can.
better, even better. No, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you are used to, you have been exposed to a lot more things.
Mhm.
In fact, you are one generation younger to me, and you're doing so good in this interview, which at your age I would not have done that well. Okay,
Right.
because of the exposure to social media and society as a whole. No, there's a lot more opportunities. And there are some challenges as well. You don't get, because of the variety of things that you are that's available to you. The amount of time you spend on one thing is not as much as what we would have spent on, because we had very few things to spend time on, and we had time to kind of dig deep.
But
So
is that
pros and
a
cons,
good
pros and cons.
is that a good thing or a bad thing that we don't stick to one?
There are a few there are a few advantages and disadvantages to every generation there, but I can tell you, no generation is without any challenges. Okay, every generation face their own challenges. Okay,
Yes.
so that's what you have to do. You have to learn to overcome them. That's all.
So before you said something very interesting, which is your academic performance only gets you your first job,
Yeah.
right? So what should children actually be learning to actually become job ready, considering today's market? What should they really learn in school besides, of course, their subjects and everything?
It's a good question, and I would say that uh, you had to be good at like I said, it's a way how you adapt to various things there. And if you have learned, or if you're in the habit of doing well with whatever assignments you have in school, that learning, the training process helps you a lot. So I would not question, or I would tell students not to question the value of it, because you're too young to find out what is the utility of that. Just do
Right.
it because the teacher says do it. And I trust the teacher implicitly and say, okay,
Yeah.
look, my teacher said that to do it, I'm going to do it. Okay,
Yes.
children at that age, they don't have the exposure. They're still too raw. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I would take the benefit of teachers, take the benefit of parents and so on, elders, well wishers and so on. There must be a good reason why they're asking me to do it. Okay, and when you do that and do well in whatever assignment you have, it becomes a practice. It becomes like like what Virat Kohli says, winning is a habit. Okay, you have to make it a habit. Doing a good job should be a habit you cultivate. Okay, no matter what it is, how menial it might sound, do it well. If you do that, you won't be what shall I say, you won't have any problem succeeding in life.
Do you think there's any noticeable mistake that parents or teachers are making? Obviously not intentionally, but they are making in whatever way that is stopping children from reaching their potential. Do you think there is something that you have observed?
uh, I uh, well nobody's a perfect parent, like nobody's a perfect child. So we are
Right.
all learning. So yes, I would say that for example, let me give you this thing about each of us have our own pastime. For me, it was reading about you kids may not even have heard about the author Enid Blyton. Okay, she was a very famous British author. I used to love her books. I used to devour her books. I started a little bit late, but I caught up pretty soon. And it was so interesting to read those novels and the Fatty series. If you have asked your dad, he'll know that. So it was so wonderful. And then I used to go back and open my textbook in English. Oh, it was so dry, and I couldn't even believe that I can't remember a single chapter in my school book, whereas I could remember novels after novels of the, and they were all good knowledge. It was good knowledge. It was written very well. Okay, so, and I used to wonder, why can't we have one or two of these kind of interesting stories in our books? I mean, why is it so dry? So I'm
Right.
not saying it's a fault of the teacher or the parent. It's just that maybe the school authorities can use the can be a little bit more liberal in the selection of stories there and so on. So not every story has to be dry. Yeah, you can have a few that have maybe driving home some particular point, but there's no reason why they couldn't sprinkle it with a little bit of good, interesting short stories like we had in these storybooks. So that is more a problem of the system, I would say, not so much of the parent. And I used to tell my kids, I guess when they came to school, the Harry Potter was a big thing.
Yeah.
Okay, and we used to encourage them to read. Those books are pretty voluminous, and I couldn't understand. I couldn't appreciate that because maybe I was past that stage of life or something there. But I could understand the fascination, and we never stopped our children from reading anything. Okay, so reading doesn't have to be just your textbook there. Just read, just learning more about various things. I mean, this may have been science fiction or whatever, but that's okay. I would say from parents' point of view, encourage children to spend time actively. Okay, reading is a very good habit, and it doesn't matter they're reading storybooks or comics or whatever. They're reading, and that's a good thing to do. Of course, hopefully it'll be done after the homework is done. But reading is something there. And the next thing I would encourage parents is that let the children maintain some level of physical activity. The physical activity is extremely important for the whole, for a person being well-rounded, and that is something that I don't know whether it's because of the we have, I know the students have got school, and then they've got a tuition for this and a tuition for that and a tuition for this and a tuition for that, and there's no time for physical activity.
Right.
You got to make some time for it. I think that only helps. So I think that. I think those two things I would say that parents can encourage children to do.
Basically, what we're saying is encourage them to have hobbies and extracurricular activities.
What shall I say? Sport. It can be anything. Music. Music is one thing that both my kids were into a little bit, I should say, but they didn't take it up any seriously. But that's okay. It just was a distraction that they enjoyed it. That's fine. So any hobby, I think, is is good. Okay, we had hobbies like stamp collection and collecting coins from currency from different countries and so on. Well, it is a wonderful hobby there. So any hobby, collection, activities, I think those are all should not be discouraged, I should say.
Now that we're talking about hobbies, tell us how these hobbies, because as a kid, I have been always told my hobbies are very important for my parents. More than me, my parents had a big thing. You have to have hobbies. You should do this. You should do that. Tell me, how do you think that shapes our mindset and makes us actually perform well when we go in our career paths?
Oh,
Do you think that
is,
it does at all?
oh yeah, I think so. I mean, like, I didn't follow my own advice until I would say last 10 years when I started making gym a habit there. And I
Mm,
work out regularly, and I find that it helps me because it, like I say, it charges my batteries. When I go back to work the next day, I feel fitter both mentally and physically to
mhm,
tackle the challenges in my job. So I
mhm,
think some kind of physical activity is wonderful, and it's also, many of the activities, especially if it's a game, it's a team spirit. Okay, and that is extremely important when you go to work. Is that you are not working on your own? You're working as part of a team.
mm,
Okay, and this is something that I can tell. One thing that parents to encourage them is how to get along with others. Okay, you're not
yes.
in a vacuum, you're not by yourself, you're working as part of a big team, and
Mm,
those are what we call soft skills. Okay,
right.
those are extremely important because if you are you may be a brilliant expert technically or academically, but if you can't get along with people there, then you are of very little value to the organization. So
Right.
that soft skills, team working is extremely important,
Okay.
and playing games and so on enforces that team spirit kind of a thing there.
Right. So, in fact, with Hoopsters, this was our very initial thought that made us get into Hoopsters in the first place. We have a program called the League of Action Heroes, the Hoopsters League of Action Heroes certification program, which focuses on these soft skills or life skills that you're talking about. So, if you were to name, say, 5 top skills that kids will need to survive and do better in the future, what do you think that would be? Those
I
five
don't.
or three, top three.
Okay, one is I would say team spirit, that's working with people. People
Mm-hmm.
skills, you might want to call that as summarize it as one. Second thing is communication. Okay, written communication is very important, as is oral communication.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
many times I find that the ability to write in good English. Okay, it doesn't have to be the flowery language or something, but something that is effective, that is free of grammatical errors, is very
Yes.
important. Okay, I mean,
Right.
in my job, I had to write a lot of technical papers and so on, and
Mhm.
writing, technical writing, or any writing is very important. Okay, and that is one thing that I was so happy that we were trained the I would say the rigorous way in school. Okay, I remember the thing about writing. Uh, given a few sentences, you had to make a story. That was making it from short to long. And then we had another set of exercises where, given a long story, you had to condense it to few words, called précis writing, I think. Both of those skills are extremely important because you got to learn to read quickly. You may be reading a large volume of material there, but you got to be able to summarize that in a
Hmm.
few sentences. And then again, you got to be able to write in enough detail so that it helps for example, when you're part of a team there, we have people working for you, and they
Right.
need detailed instructions. They
Yes.
need both oral and written communications. That is extremely important, both written and oral communications. So I would
Mm-hmm.
say, I think I put two: people skills and communication are two
Mm-hmm.
important ones that we don't stress enough that we could.
Okay.
And the third
Now,
one is, I would say, be good in what you're doing. It's not how, what shall I say, what field you are in. It is
mhm,
how good you are in that field that matters a lot.
right. And how do they do that? How do they practice, I guess, right? Is that it? Or are there any other methods to get better? Besides practice, of course, practice is not.
Hard work, hard work. That's all. There is, in everything you do, hard work. There is no substitute for hard work. That's the reality of life. There are no shortcuts. There are no shortcuts to anything.
So now that we're looking at the future job markets and this and that, there's a lot of talk about automation, artificial intelligence, and all these mechanized processes that are probably going to affect a lot of manual jobs, and
Yeah.
people could get replaced, right? Should we be worried about it at all, or no?
Uh, well, if yes, there is a good reason to be worried about it, because if it's such a mechanized job that a robot can be programmed to do it, then yes, your job is at risk. And the only way to overcome that is make sure that you're constantly learning. So learning
Right.
never stops. It's what we call lifelong learning. That's lifelong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you think that you can rest on your laurels, you are going to be disappointed. Okay, learning is a lifelong process, so you have to keep active all the time and make sure that you're employable all the time. Okay, so
Right.
the skill sets that you working on, they may change, but you're constantly improving. Now, regarding things like automation, automation, artificial intelligence, all the new buzzwords you see like AI and machine learning, those are basically different flavors of basic science and math, or applied science and math, whatever you want to call it. Okay,
Mm.
in school, I don't know how much we had, whether we had some, maybe there was some statistics and probability. Okay, that is very important subject. Okay, a lot
Yes.
more important than what we are led, what at least I thought was when I studied them. Uh, when you say artificial intelligence or machine learning or whatever, it's basically application of those things. How do you train a computer to think? It doesn't have a brain. All it can do is follow a certain set of instructions.
Mm.
So it comes down to programming, is science and math. Okay, and then they have different names and all those things there, but it's basic science, math, and programming.
Right.
So if you're good in those things and you have a fundamentals, what shall I say, very well versed in the fundamentals, you should be able to adapt to any of these challenges then.
So I think creativity is the one thing that separates us from machines. Isn't that right? So
Oh yeah.
keeping that in mind, how important would arts be, for children in our future? What role does exposure to arts? I'm not saying you have to be an artist, but some exposure and art appreciation. How would that give them an edge?
I don't know whether it'll give them an edge or something. It makes your life more enjoyable. I mean, it's a
Mm.
bit boring for me to just think of, I'm an electrical engineer, think only of electrical engineering. That'd be boring. To make my life richer, I would like to appreciate art, music, fine arts, whatever you want to call that. It makes life
Mhm.
so interesting. I mean, believe me, I can have a nice conversation over anything except my subject. Okay, I can't I can't converse with anybody about my subject unless it is a fellow geek or something. But with general people there, I can converse on other things, like arts. Those are all essentials of life. I mean, you can't compartmentalize saying that this is what I'm going to do because this is where the money is. You got to have a
Right.
well-rounded life. So for that, the more you can appreciate art and music, your life will become so much better.
Agreed. Totally agreed. So my last question to you would be, if you had to give one tip to parents and one tip to educators to make our kids job ready, what would that be?
One tip to parents. Okay, one tip to parents is encourage creativity. One tip to job hire people who are hiring is give people time to learn, because
Okay.
if you're hiring intelligent people, that how intelligent people, give them time. People will learn, and this I'm speaking from personal experience. I do research in a certain area where I can't find too many people there. So I
Right.
have to hire from people with slightly different backgrounds and different what's the subject and so on. But I train them. I point them in the right direction. And all I
Mm-hmm.
say is, look, if you learn how to do basic math and science in school, there's no reason why you can't do this job. Okay, you have to spend a little bit extra time in the beginning there, so give them more time to learn.
Mm-hmm. And
That's
for the teachers and the teachers?
creativity. I think that's important too. That's the same for parents and teachers. Do not curb any creativity. It may be it may be in a different thing there, but as long as the creative, see how we can exploit the creativity to whatever you're trying to do. For example, I'll tell you how I practice it. Is that my work is it can be completely experimental. That's going to a lab and doing experiments, or it could be all computer simulations and programming and so on, or a blend. Okay, and I assess the students' interest and so on, and if as long as I know the student is a good student, that is hardworking and is good, I kind of tailor the project to their strengths.
Okay.
I tailor the project to their strengths, and of course, I have the ability as an academic to do that. In industry, maybe it's different, but I have the ability to to kind of orient the project to the strength, and I get the better than normal results, better than average results.
One personal question about you is again, you have taught generations, like different age groups of students and everything, and you've seen the technology evolve, everything evolved in your tenure of being a teacher. Tell us, what personality traits did you have to adapt, or what skills did you have to adapt to help our generation or the future generation?
I mean, just this getting onto this call was was not simple there. Okay, so it's. I mean, the reason I could, you saw the problem there. I mean, this is a great opportunity there that, and this not just once. I see that happen regularly. The screen you see is different from the screen I see. Okay,
Yes.
the same application. I mean, I'm on Cricinfo all the time, following cricket matches. What I see on my laptop is very different from what I see on my computer. And that's what I tell my computer friends. Why can't you make it look the same and so on? Well, that is to tell them how to do it. But then for myself, I have to recognize, well, maybe they cannot make it the same because the size of the screen is different and so on. So be patient and don't be afraid. The biggest thing I can tell is maybe it's easier to tell now than it was early in my life. Don't be afraid to say that I don't know. Okay, I don't know is a very good answer, I should say, in many cases. If we don't know, people will honestly tell you and help you rather than pretending to know. That's something that I never try to do. I don't pretend to know. If I don't know, I don't know. That is something very important to recognize, is your own limitations. And if you say, I don't know how to do it, people will tell me. Like you told me, you navigated me through so many steps and so on. But so it works. And all that the only personality trait that I have kept constant is being honest. Okay. I'm honest in what I know and I'm honest in what I don't know. I don't try to pretend what I'm not.
Right.
So that I think is a good thing. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
Sort of.
So thank you so much. I'm so glad we could do this. I was almost afraid that we probably not get on call. So I'm really glad.
That's good, and I'm glad. I hope it was of help to anybody, and so. As if the parents watching this show or something there. I mean, I think that the initiative that Bala has started through Hoopsters is a very, very important one. I know from personal experience, he always thinks out of the box. And he has come up with so many different ideas and so on. And let's use our experience to kind of educate people there and kind of make them aware that there is more than one way of doing a job. Okay, there are multiple ways, and diversity is extremely important.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for those kind words.
Thank you. And take care.
Good conversation. Okay. And I hope we talk again. I hope we can talk a lot more as we grow as Hoopsters as well.
Yeah.
So for those who are watching this show, please check out hoopsters.in. This conversation will also be posted on Hoopsters' Instagram page. So in case you want to watch it again, you want to rewind, you can go there and do that.